Brandi Chastain, the women's professional soccer defender and midfielder, made World Cup history in 1999 when she kicked the game-winning penalty shootout goal that helped the U.S. team win the 1999 FIFA Women's World Cup. She visited New York to promote Johnson & Johnson's World Cup involvement. I talked to her about her career, World Cup, the winning kick, and the rise of soccer in the U.S. and for young women across the world. Welcome to New York.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
And of course, all the excitement around World Cup, that's part of the reason you're here.
Absolutely. I'm a humongous and passionate fan of soccer. You know, I hate that it's every 4 years. I wish it was every year. But through my experience as a national team player for the U.S. team, it's opened so many opportunities for me to talk about soccer, to share positive messages for kids and families, and that's why I'm here for Johnson & Johnson today. You know, I think sports is such a great vehicle for sending positive messages, and the exposure that I've had through soccer, you know, playing in a World Cup, being in the Olympics, has given me a platform to speak on, and I'm grateful to Johnson & Johnson not only for what they're going to be doing in this World Cup, with their standardized emergency medical kits that will be in every single stadium, which we've never had before in soccer. So that's a load off the mind of the players that are playing on the field in case there's an accident.
I'm going to ask you to weigh in on the men's games. Do you have any predictions for that?
Well, I'm a big USA fan, so of course I support USA. I'm red, white, and blue all the way, and I've been watching them at Stanford University during their preparation. So I think we have some players that can make an impact. I'm feeling very good about Michael Bradley, Tim Howard. Clint Dempsey, of course, he's a great goal scorer and has been for the national team. I'm looking forward to big things from him. But I think Brazil, you know, this is a really interesting time for Brazil in their country, not soccer-wise. They've always been good in soccer, but there's a lot of things that are happening in that country right now. Yeah. And with them hosting the World Cup and then the Olympic Games, you know, money is being spent in a way that I think we could all see is like, it seems to be outrageous. And people are, you know, sometimes are baffled by it. How can sport cost so much? But I'm hoping that what sport will do is bring about calm and about programs that will help young families and kids live better lives. And I think that the World Cup has an opportunity to do that.
Well, I can remember when they were campaigning actually to get the Olympics, and there was so much concern about whether they had the infrastructure and whether they were ready for it. Do you think they're ready for it?
I'm crossing my fingers. I'm going to say yes, they are. You know, they've been working. I actually went on a trip with my ex-teammate Julie Foudy with the State Department, a feel-good trip, but you know, one that was geared towards getting local politicians to see the value in sport, and specifically for young girls participating in sport in their communities. And we went on a tour of the opening game stadium in Sao Paulo that will then host the Corinthians team that's very popular there in Brazil. And that game and that stadium will be the jumping point for the whole World Cup. And I know it's been a difficult road for the people of Brazil and for the construction that's been going on, but I'm crossing my fingers that they will be ready when that ball rolls and kicks off on June 12th. Of
course, you know there's a question I have to ask you. You said you don't mind. It's the 15th anniversary coming up here of your legendary winning penalty kick and celebration. Do you get tired of being asked about it? That's the first thing. And then what does it represent to you now that so much time has passed?
Well, the answer is definite, emphatic no. I absolutely entertain that question a lot of times, but I welcome it as well, because what ends up happening, as I said, you know, we get to then use soccer and women's soccer as a vehicle to talk about other things that are really important, like, you know, education for kids and health and wellness of communities, and impact people and organizations like Johnson & Johnson and the Care Inspires Care campaign that are really making a difference, who are going out in communities to really invest themselves in what's happening around this globe. And for me personally, that moment allowed me to sit with people like yourself and to have a voice and to do something good. So, you know, even though that moment was strictly spontaneous and insanity and crazy and a dream come true, it's turned into a platform for talking about things that really matter.
What a lot of people don't know is about the challenges that you endured before even playing in that game. One thing, you tore your ACL, you tore your meniscus twice.
I've had some injuries for sure.
How did that affect your mindset?
Well, to be honest with you, the two back-to-back ACLs that I had over about, I actually missed 2.5 years of collegiate soccer prior to the World Cups. And I think what happened for me at that moment, it gave me a chance to pause. And it gave me, as a young person, time to reflect and have perspective, which I think when I was in it and it was going well, it's like I think a lot of people experience. It's hard to have perspective when things are going well. And to see how things matter or they don't matter, or what's important and what's not important. And so for me to sit on the sideline as a player who really always wanted to be the one to make the impact and be kind of like the MVP of the game, that seemed to be really important to me at the time. And having to sit on the sideline, it really gave me a chance to take a breath and see how important the players on the bench were, how important the game was to me, what were the messages that I was putting out, whether it was my body language or with my, with my comments. And it really gave me a chance to grow up. So it was a life change. Those are life-changing moments for me that led to all the great things that happened on the soccer field after that.
And people always say that. They say, oh, I wouldn't take it back. Would you take it back?
Absolutely not.
So you weren't even supposed to even have been on the top 5 to kick. You were 6, right? Correct?
Yes.
You missed a shot 4 months earlier in China.
Right.
But you switched to your left foot.
Yeah, not by choice, not by choice.
Okay.
No, that's an interesting story because, when you watch basketball, for example, and you see the person come up for the free throw and they select their dominant hand. And for me, I'm two-footed, but
that's awesome.
But I usually take my penalty kicks with my right foot. But our coach, Tony DiCicco, he was just I think he was nervous, as somebody who doesn't have control over what's happening, you're just you're the coach, you have to sit back and watch it unfold. I think he was a little nervous, so I think he thought that China had been kind of watching us while we were practicing, which the practices were open, which was, fair, they could have come. So right before we went out, he's like, you're going to be a kicker, and I was like, yeah, of course, like I was normally a penalty kick taker anyway, and he goes, okay, but you need to use your left foot. And I think I was so exhausted that I was like, okay, I don't even know what you're saying right now, but okay, fine. And then I got to the center and I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to take this with my left foot. But the good thing was because I had practiced both feet and I played on the left, it didn't really faze me too much until somebody asked me years later, like, you use your left foot. And I was like, you know what, I'd never done that before. But the good thing was, I think practice allows you to have that comfort.
There you go for all the young players out there, right?
Absolutely.
Develop both feet.
Yeah, and I think, you have to rely on the thing. It's like anything else, whether it's in business or in sports or in school. The more you practice and the more you rehearse, the more comfortable you become and the more confident you are. And so then you take that variable out of the equation and you just do what you do naturally.
I have a Facebook question from Dave Jordan. He wants to know, do you still have the shirt?
I do.
You do?
Yes, of course I do. I have it in a frame with the medal around it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good one. Do you think soccer remains primarily, why do you think soccer remains primarily a youth sport in the U.S.?
Well, it's a great question, and I think it's evolving and I think it's changing. I think for sure my generation, soccer was an immigrant sport. People who immigrated to the United States played the game because traditionally soccer is pretty much #1 around the world. And so generation by generation, that's changing. My boys know soccer as an American sport. So I feel that has changed. But I think why it's predominantly shared by young people is because every person in the game plays. And you get your exercise, you get to integrate in a team, you feel like you're a part of the action, you can contribute on a regular basis. I love baseball and I played baseball growing up, but sometimes you could sit out in outfield and never get a ball. And you only get up once out of every 9 times. So, there is a participation factor in soccer that is really unique, and it allows kids to feel that they contribute. And I think it's just a growing sport in this country. I think that Major League Soccer has really done a great job of getting soccer out there in the communities, and now with the expansion that it's had, it's virtually from coast to coast, border to border. So soccer is now an American sport, and I look forward to us embracing it even more.
Okay, so 12-year-old Dorothy Grover.
Okay.
She wants to know, how hard do I have to train if I want to get to that level? Can you give me some tips on where I should be focusing most of my efforts from a training standpoint at age 12?
Well, Dorothy, I appreciate the question. I think it's really mature of her to be asking such a good question. I think number one, whenever you find something you love, you'll spend time doing it. And when you spend time doing something that you love, you're going to get the results. You're going to get the rewards. You're going to gain that confidence. So the number one thing I tell kids all the time is have a relationship with that soccer ball. Juggle it, dribble it. If you can find someone to play against, play 1 versus 1. As much as you can, spend time with the ball, because what happens is once you spend time with the ball, you know how it feels when it comes to your thigh or your foot or your chest, even your head. You see it a lot, and when you see it a lot, when it comes to the game, what happens for our kids is because maybe they don't spend a lot of time with the ball when they're younger, when pressure comes, panic ensues.
Or when your coach says, use your left foot.
Or when your coach says, use your left foot. But when that panic ensues, it's like you just want to get rid of it instead of accepting the pressure and dealing with it and moving the ball one way or the other. And you can have calm in the moments. And that's what you're going to see in the World Cup. That's what's so great about the World Cup, because the speed at which these guys play is phenomenal. It's like track put on a soccer field. These guys run so fast, and their technical speed is so incredible. The footwork that has to happen at that speed is amazing. So Dorothy, to you, time on the ball will result in positive confidence on the field under pressure.
Okay, so 38 years,
yes,
right? You played straight, and last year was the first year in 38 years that you hadn't played.
Yeah.
But you're still on the roster for the California Storm. There isn't parity between men and women in sports in terms of pay. But what advice do you give to women who want to have a professional career in sports, but also really want to be secure financially? Beyond the free education, what are other ways that women can use to capitalize on their sport? And do you see them making more money in the future?
Well, I definitely see them making more money in the future. I think, we've already talked, the business of sports has grown exponentially since I began playing sports. And I think you can't overlook the importance of that Title IX law enacted in 1972, because that education factor is truly important. And what they're learning in school, academically, and then on the playing fields respectively, is giving them a springboard to whatever it is that they choose to do. Now, what I would say to these young professionals is that soccer at some point will end. And I don't think I spent 1 minute thinking about that or preparing for it. And so I wish somebody had come to me and say, what is it that you think you might want to do when you're finished? Now, it could be in the thing that you studied, in the arena that you studied. It could be something totally different, and sport has actually led me in a path that maybe at times I really wasn't sure that I would go, but it prepared me to take risks and to be willing and open to new ideas. So for me, it's, I think today's world is, there's a lot of social media that makes a difference, and there's a lot of self-promotion out there. But I think, honestly, the reason I'm here talking to you today is because the values that Johnson & Johnson hold true in their family company are the same values that are important to me and in my family. And so I think you can align yourself with brands or organizations that fall in line with those same things. So caring about people, caring about communities, loving soccer. For me, all of a sudden, somehow, they've all found their way into one basket. And I think if you're open to those things, work and business outside of sport will happen.
Okay, just 2 quick questions. You still get nervous when you see that clip?
Oh my gosh, yes. Every time I see it, I think it's not going in. And then it does, and I'm like, oh, thank God. But I just think, being in that moment, I didn't have that. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't nervous about taking the kick, because I had practiced and rehearsed that so many times, And when Brianna Scurry made the unbelievable save she did on China's third kicker, I knew we'd won. I said to myself, we've won this World Cup. And she just gave me the opportunity to do what I've been doing at practice all the time. So, but there is a little hint of butterflies in my stomach every time I go to kick that ball, because it was a little too close to the post. I didn't want it that close, but I'm glad that it went in.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Okay, so what's your plan here for 5 years out?
In 5 years, well, you know, again, I think every day as a parent, I'm attempting to become the best parent I can.
Because your kids are soccer players.
Yes, my older son is a third-year law student, and he loves soccer and is involved in soccer in a way that I never thought that he would be. And he is so talented with the ball and tricks and juggling, and I feel like he's got a future, and that's such a big thing right now, street soccer. I think that could be a niche for him. Not that I don't want him to use law, but you know, it's a niche that I think he's passionate about. And for my young son, you know, I want him to love reading and languages and people and be compassionate and be a gentleman. So for me as a parent, that's my #1 priority, is to help foster that sportsmanship and caring. And then ultimately for me is to find a way to still be in television and do broadcasting. Next year is the Women's World Cup in 2015, so I'll self-promote that I would love to be a broadcaster for that great event. and continue to work with companies like Johnson & Johnson. Yeah, he better be on it. To continue to work with great companies like Johnson & Johnson about making a difference in our communities and the positive things that we all can do.
Do you still talk to your teammates?
All the time, all the time. You know,
Who do you talk to the most?
I talk with Julie Foudy, Christine Lilly, Mia Hamm. You know, I'm constantly sending them things like, you know, it's funny. Our messages and our texts used to be like, hey, what are you doing? You know, we're going on vacation. Now it's like, my son or daughter did this. Yeah. And now we become those proud parents, like we're sharing our kids' moments. So it's really wonderful.
Well, it's good to see you in here. Thank you so much for coming in, Brandi.
If any of your viewers want more information on the Care Inspires Care, they can go to careinspirescare.com and check it out and enjoy the World Cup. Go USA.
All right. With Brandi Chastain, I'm Lee Hawkins. Catch us on Twitter @Lee Hawkins.